Last week's yin yoga class on the ligaments, joints, and fascia sparked a lot of discussion, so I thought we would do a part 2 this week. Yoga with Melissa is made possible because of the ongoing support of our members in our membership community. This month, our members are developing their practice with myofascial release with Fascia February. We have 8 brand new classes for our members for Fascia February that focus on all the joints of the body and are incredibly supportive for sore feet, ankles, knee pain, hip pain, rheumatoid arthritis, spine pain, back pain, sciatica, digestive issues, stress, anxiety, depression, pain in your hands and wrist joints, carpal tunnel syndrome. If you spend hours a day on keyboards and smartphones, poor circulation in your legs, elbows, frozen shoulders, spend a lot of time driving, stiff and painful shoulders, a stiff and painful neck, or if you experience tension headaches. In addition to those 8 new classes, we also have 4 and 6 week fascia plans if you're just starting out, if you have a chronic illness, if you have lower back pain or upper back pain. We also have classes using the soft foam roller, the slow-mo ball, and a soft squash ball, as well as classes combining all the props. In February, we will be supporting you in practicing your yoga every day, as always, in our daily yoga connection with myofascial release classes. To become a supporting member and to continue to make Yoga with Melissa available around the world, go to melissawest.com/membership. Hello and welcome to Yoga with Melissa. I'm Melissa. If you're new here, a special welcome to you. And I know if you've chosen a video like this that you are serious about yin yoga and committed to your yin yoga practice. So for that, I commend you, and we will get right to our yin yoga practice. Just a quick note to let you know there's a gift for you in the show notes. I'll tell you more about that at the end. But for now, let's go ahead and rest back in Shavasana. So just like last week when we rested back to center and ground at the beginning of the class, pay attention to the difference between the sensations in yin and yang in your body. The heaviness and denseness, the letting go at the back of the body, the yin, and the lightness and freedom and space all around you and at the front of your body. And we'll get to this more in the class, but remember there's always some yin in the yang and yang in the yin. And things are always moving and shifting and changing too. So it's not always one way. So continue to stay resting back here. A lot of yin yoga is based on Taoist philosophies and the balance between yin and yang. And we'll be relying on these when we start to talk about the tissues, the fascia, the ligaments, and the joints again this week. Yin is known as dark and cold, slow and passive, the more dense matter of things. Yang is known as light and active, energetic. So when yin and yang are in balance, this is known as the middle way or the Tao. And it's said to be the path to balance and harmony. It's like the balance between day and night. You can't have day without night or night without day. You need both. You couldn't always be in day. You couldn't always be awake. You also couldn't always be asleep. You need a balance between the two. You need some rest and you need some activity. So there's always some yin in the yang and yang in the yin. So at night, there are periods where you are awake. During the day, there are times when you rest. There's yang in the yin and yin in the yang. And also yin becomes yang and yang becomes yin. Towards the end of the day, we experience dusk as it goes into night. And towards dawn, night turns into day. So you might be wondering what this has to do with fascia and yin yoga. Well, it has a lot to do with it. Because when we are practicing yoga and yin yoga, with yin yoga, we're creating stability, especially around the joints and the ligaments. In yang yoga, we're creating more mobility. So as we age, we become more yin in our bodies. You can think about when you look at your grandparents and your elders, they get stiffer and stiffer the more they age. Their bodies start to dry up. You can even see this in their skin. They start to become more prune-like, as opposed to babies who are very plump and juicy, and they've got these really chubby cheeks. So our bodies become drier and more yin as we age, and we really start to feel this in the areas of our bodies, in the joints and the ligaments. And I've been talking to my students about this week, and they say that they feel this. They've been feeling this as they age, the dryness in their joints. So go ahead and start to wiggle and stretch out, and we'll come into our first pose. We're actually going to do the same first pose. It's a great pose to get into all the meridians of your lower body and to get into the hips and the inner thighs, and just a great pose for the lower body to begin. And I also loved it because it got right into the toes, and it's great for all the meridians of the lower body too. So it's often one that you'll see us start a yin class with. So we're going to do butterfly pose. And the reason why I love this variation is because it does the zipper toes too, so you get all the meridians of the feet, which is where the many of the meridians start or end in the body. So you can zipper up the toes, okay, because all the meridians begin or end in the toes. It's a great pose for that. And then feel the space underneath your hips here. And then fold forward just until you feel pressure either in the inner thighs. You might feel them back in the buttocks. You want to feel sensation, but you don't need it to be sensational, because this is yin yoga. It's not an aesthetic practice. You want to feel it from the inside. It doesn't matter how the postures look. So yin yoga focuses on the yin tissues, the ligaments and the joints and the bones. And these tissues love long passive holds, and they love to remain cool. So yin tissues, they appreciate gentle pressure for long periods of time. And this gentle pressure over time stimulates the ligaments and joints to grow and the bones to grow stronger. So I had one of my students ask this week about she's hyperly, actually a couple of my students that are hyperly mobile in their joints, and they were concerned about their joints. And while it's important for people who have hyperly mobile joints and yin not to go to the end range in their poses, we're not trying to create flexibility or to make the ligaments or joints longer. We're not trying to do that. When we pull and pressurize the tissues in yin yoga, we are stimulating the ligaments and joints to become stronger. And when we do that, we also create more space in the joints. So yin yoga is designed to stress the ligaments, regain space in the joints, and strengthen the joints. Okay, we're just going to switch the way we have the toes zippered here. So just switch the way you've got the toes zippered. It helps if you pull on each toe, I find, to zipper them. So yin yoga is very different from any other kind of style of yoga. So sometimes it's useful to think about what it does in opposition to other styles of yoga. So now that I've explained what we're doing in a yin yoga class, let's oppose it or look at it, what it does in dichotomy to another style. So yang tissues are the muscles and the blood and the skin, and muscles like rhythmic repetitive movement. So this is the kind of thing that you would do in a vinyasa class. You would be affecting the muscles, even in a hatha yoga class. They are elastic and moist. So think about vinyasa or a flow yoga class. These are classes where you're going to create rhythmic, repetitive movement, and you're affecting the muscles. Muscles protect the joints. So if there's too much stress on a joint, first the muscle is going to tear, then the ligament, and finally the joint will suffer. So in yin yoga, we are not trying to stress the muscles or affect the muscles, although as we'll see as I go along and explain more, there's always some yin in the yang. So the yin and the yang and the muscles is the fascia, and we'll get to that. But generally, we're not trying to affect the muscles in yin. We're trying to, when it comes to the anatomy, and we're not talking about the energy body right now either, we're affecting the ligaments and the joints and the bones, the yin tissues of the body. Okay, so let's release this and go ahead and we'll just rest back and allow the chi to flow through the body. Okay, the sun's going in and out of the clouds today, so we've got light coming in and out. Okay, and one more, we're just going to, because this is a full body yin class, I just want to spend a little bit more time in your toes. So if you have hammer toes or toe injuries and this is just too much weight pouring through your toes, you could stretch your toes out against the wall. You could just massage your toes. You could skip this one. We're only going to be in it for a minute. We're going to do some toe stand. So just curl your toes under. And sit back on your toes. Okay, so you can go ahead and release this pose from your body and just let it out of your body. For the next pose, you're going to need probably a folded blanket just to elevate your hips a little bit so they roll over your leg bones a little bit more easily. So we're going to move into your hips and your legs for this. So extend your right leg out long, cross your left leg over your right leg, and then you're going to fold forward for half cow's face pose to begin. And here you can either fold forward like this. It's nice in yin to support yourself with props. Something like this could be nice. So a few minutes ago, I said that there's always some yin in the yang and some yang in the yin. And this is when I was talking about how there's some yin in the muscles too. So even though muscles are yang, there's some yin in the yang muscles. So 30% of what we call muscles is actually fascia. And we've been focusing on fascia a whole lot in the Yoga with Melissa classes. We did a couple of myofascial release classes. We've done some classes on my secondary channel about this, and then our whole month of February we focus on fascia in the membership community as well. But all that to say that 30% of the fascia within our muscles, this is the part that governs our range of motion. It's the muscle cells that determine their strength. So as I said, the yang yoga targets the yang tissues with repetitive action and brief holds that strengthen the muscles. And it's because muscles are elastic that they can handle that repetitive and rhythmic action. Now it's the yin portion of the practice, the long holds, that we're doing right now. Like right now in this pose, we're doing a 5-minute hold. This is what targets the fascia, the dense and tough tissue which surrounds and covers all your muscles and bones. So this fascia is strong and flexible. Under a microscope, it looks like a spider web. It needs to have tensile strength so you're not a bag of bones like you were when you were a baby. But it also needs to be flexible so that you can move. Okay, you can come up. Let's just rest back and let the chi flow through the body here. And then you can roll to your side, and we'll continue with this side. We're going to just add on. So you're going to cross your left over your right and then bring your right up so that you're in cow's face, full cow's face now. And if this is difficult for you in your body and your hips, then you can always lie on your back and do figure 4 pose instead. Cross your left leg over your right thigh instead. And then you're going to lean forward here just until you feel sensation in your hips. And remember, you're holding this pose for 5 minutes, so choose an appropriate edge. Remember your principles of yin. You want to choose an appropriate edge that you can stay with for a while so that you can soften and be still. And this allows us to access those deeper connective tissues, the ligaments, the joints, the bones, so we can stress them so that they can grow stronger. If we don't stay for a while, if we keep fidgeting and moving, it stays up at the level of the muscles, because then we're applying that kind of principle of rhythmic action, and we stay up at the level of the muscles and the skin. So we want to choose an edge where we can be still and soften, so the muscles can be soft and we can get into those deeper tissues. Okay, slowly let this pose out of your body and we'll come down and just feel the rebound before we go on to the sequence on the other side. And then we're going to go ahead and do the sequence on the other side. So we'll do half cow's face or half shoelace on the other side. And again, it can be nice to use the bolster here for support. So yin tissues are more plastic in nature. The ligaments, the tendons, the joints and bones require this gentle, long-held stress that we apply in a yin class, exactly like we're doing right now in shoelace pose. So I'll give you an example. I have this, my daughter likes to drink coffee, and it comes in a container with a plastic lid. And if you put that plastic lid I like to keep it in the freezer because in my mind, it keeps it fresh. When I put that plastic lid in the freezer, it keeps it cool. So if we're using the analogy of the yin tissues, it's fine as long as it stays still in the freezer, right? But as soon as I take it out of the freezer in the morning and I apply that rhythmic action to it of taking the lid off of it quickly to get the coffee out, then the lid breaks. It needs to be warm for it to be malleable enough to take it off the top. So if you were to apply rhythmic action to the ligaments, like muscles, it's going to snap. They need that slow, gentle traction. But if I take it out when it's cool and I really lift it off slowly and gingerly, move it slowly, it would have been fine. So it's not as good analogy as the one that always gets used. I tried to give you a different one, but of a credit card, if you're moving it back and forth, it's going to snap. But it's the same kind of thing. It's going to snap. So stress is the attention that we're placing on the tissue. And when we stress a muscle, the result is elongation. So when we stress a joint or a ligament, we're not trying to stretch the ligament or the joint capsules. This would be very, very bad. We don't want to do this. When we stress a ligament or a joint capsule, over time they're actually becoming more spacious, thicker, and stronger. Okay, let's go ahead and rest back for the rebound. Feel the flow of chi. So here, if cow's face pose isn't going to work for you, you could take your right ankle over the top of your left thigh and draw your left thigh in for keyhole instead. Nice option. With your left foot on the wall is even better. Otherwise, come up and you can join us for cow's face. Or shoelace as it's known in yin. Cross your right leg over your left, fold your left leg in. And we'll fold forward just until you feel sensation in your buttocks, in your glutes. And remember, especially with joints, you don't want to overdo it, especially with joints close to any joints. If you overdo it, it's going to move to the next weakest joint. So be careful to go easy, especially with hip joints. Yeah, so the point is to not overdo it in these hip opening poses, because then it's going to go to the next weakest joint, which is your knees. And you really want to be careful with your knees always. Okay, go ahead and release this down. Okay, so we're going to move up your body from your feet, legs, hips, and of course when we work our hips, we're also working our knees. We're going to go up to our shoulder joints here. For this pose, you're going to need your bolster. You could do it without your bolster as well, but it's kind of a nice addition to use your bolster. We're going to do half bow tie pose. So you can, just want to see how long I want to do this pose for. Put your bolster by your feet. This might take a bit of figuring out. Okay, so this is like thread the needle. You're going to take your, except for it's really long, you're going to take your left arm underneath your right arm, thread it through, and then you can, there's two options here. You can rest your forehead on the ground, or you can rest your forehead on your forearm. So see what works best for you in your body today. This would be less. This would be a little bit more weight pouring through your left deltoid. Okay, so you're going to lift out of this side, and you can just rest on your belly for the rebound. Then we'll go ahead and do the other side. Thread your right arm underneath your left. You can rest your forehead on the ground or your forehead on your forearm. Okay, and you can come out of this pose, and I'm going to recommend that you take Shavasana on your belly today. Okay, so you can keep resting back in Shavasana, and I am going to read you a poem. So today's poem is called Daybreak by Galway Kinnell. On the tidal mud, just before sunset, dozens of starfishes were creeping. It was as though the mud were a sky, and enormous, imperfect stars moved across it slowly, as the actual stars cross heaven. All at once they stopped, and as if they had simply increased their receptivity to gravity, they sank down into the mud. They faded down into it and lay still. And by the time pink of sunset broke across them, they were as invisible as the true stars at daybreak. And as you're resting back in Shavasana, I really just want to take a few moments to thank you for your dedication to your yin yoga practice. I'm really proud of you for the time that you spend on your yoga mat. I know today we really focused right in on the joints and the ligaments and the fascia, but all of this allows you to move with strength and with freedom. It allows you to move with grace. It allows you to let go of the stiffness and the rigidity that maybe used to cause you to hold back in your lives. And it allows you to feel strong enough to connect with others in your lives freely. And this is just so important and so needed for both your own authentic expression and for those that you are in relationship with in your life. And it makes the world a better place. When you are flexible, when you go with the flow, when you're fluid and when you are expressive. So thank you for your dedication to your yin yoga practice. I'm genuinely honored to see the way that your yin yoga practice comes to life off your mat and in your lives. So gradually allow your breath to deepen. You can wiggle your fingers and toes. And start to stretch out, bend your knees, roll to your side. You can make your way up to seated, and we'll gather the fruits of our practice first into ourselves, and then we'll offer them out into the world. So left palm up and right palm down. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. So thank you so much for joining me for this Yin Yoga class, this full body Yin Yoga class. If you made it all the way to the end, give yourself a thumbs up and put "I love learning how Yin Yoga works" in the comments. And please, and thank you so much to all of you who share these classes with your friends and people that you know, like you, who are super dedicated to your Yin Yoga practices. Thank you so much for share them with them on your socials. Thank you to Paige and Jane and Royanne for your donations. Royanne sent a lovely message along with hers. She said, "Hi, Melissa. I love your Yin Yoga practices and teachings. I am a yoga teacher." She teaches chair yoga, gentle yoga, and Yin Yoga. "I just began teaching Yin Yoga last September, and I've learned so much about Yin from your YouTube videos and instructions. Thank you for sharing so generously. Namaste." So thank you, Royanne. I really appreciate your support. She's from Florida. And as I said at the beginning, I would let you know where to get that gift. There's a link in the show notes just below. If you go to there, then I will send you a PDF of my favorite props and how to use them in a 10-week series, not anywhere else. And of course, as I said, I decided to do another class because the discussion was, we just had a huge discussion about this class last week in our membership community, and our members are super enjoying 8 brand new myofascial release classes in our community for all of the joints, feet and ankles, knees, hips, spine, shoulders, elbows, and wrists right now. And yeah, those are going over really well. All short classes, easy to do in the week. And if you'd like to be a member, we'd love to welcome you into our community, and you'll have access to those classes and hundreds of more. And also tons of, mostly our community focuses on doing things together. Big focus on daily yoga. That's what everybody says that they want to do when they come in, is commit to a daily practice or enhance their daily practice. And so that's what we really support you in. So I'm sending you much love from beautiful British Columbia. May your joy be as deep as our ocean. May you be as rooted as the old growth trees in our forest. And may you be as strong as our mountains. Om Shanti. Namaste. Hello, Tim. This is for you. Yes, you. I know you never forget anything. Never anything. You have a brain like an elephant, so you don't need this reminder at all. But just put in that little clip. Put in that little clip that we filmed 3 weeks ago now, so it might just slip your mind. That little Camtasia clip, just insert it right here. You know the one we're talking about?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
No problem.